Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sentinel. Today is a somber day, and the reason it's a somber day for America is because on 26 August 2021, Abbey happened. And as you all well know, we lost 13 American service members. Um, there's dozens more wounded. Nearly 200 Afghan civilians were killed in the process. Hundreds more were wounded. And then during the whole debacle of the Kabul withdrawal, we also had an erroneous drone strike where 10 innocent Afghan civilians were killed, and seven of them were children. So this was not a good look for America. So I want to just take some time in honor of those we lost at Abbey, Americans and Afghans as well, and also those who were wounded in Afghanistan. And I just want to take a moment to pause and grieve with our Gold Star families for their loss. So I think it's important as a nation that we do this because Abbey is not just another anniversary. It's a great reminder for us what happens when strategy collapses and politics replaces planning. And I'll get into that a little bit. And when our leaders forget their first duty to their troops, which is force protection. And so let's get into this and talk about that. So how did all this happen? So what happened was that in February of 2020, President Trump was just tired of just expending resources, money, and time on Afghanistan, and he'd had enough. And I think most of the nation agreed with him. So he started negotiations with the Taliban in Doha, and it's called the Doha Agreement. And there's a deal set to clear all U.S. forces from Afghanistan by 1 May 2021. Then, as we know, President Biden took office and he had options. He could have renegotiated this deal, just like President Obama did with Iran on the nuclear deal. He could have adjusted it, which he did. Instead of the 1 May withdrawal date, he changed it to 11 September. To coincide with the anniversary of 11 September. Or he could have executed the plan that President Trump came up with. While all this is going on, the Taliban offensive is on fire. I mean, they're just making headway and just taking over province after province without really much fighting because the Afghan National Army and security forces are just dropping their weapons and going home. So, and this kind of just didn't factor into our thought process at the senior levels of power in Washington, D.C. and down at CENTCOM. There's no serious contingencies done. There's no realistic assessment done that, hey, would the Afghan government and would the Afghan National Army hold up? The conventional thinking at that time was, yeah, they're going to do fine once we leave. Well, that didn't happen, did it? Didn't really adjust the plan. We all got focused on, Kabul International Airport in a dense city environment where you couldn't protect your force. And consequently, rather than thinking about Bagram, which was about 40 miles away, vast open area that could be secured. All the access points to Bagram could have been secured with checkpoints, and the perimeter obviously could have been secured with the help of the ANA. But we didn't factor any of that into the plan. Just take a look at this and see, okay, what's the responsibility? Obviously, President Biden has responsibility. He's the President of the United States, the Chief Executive Officer, the Commander-in-Chief. But he's got immunity. The next person that's responsible is the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. He owned the diplomatic piece for this whole thing, the Doha Agreement, renegotiating the agreement, and also the evacuation plan for the Kabul embassy, which collapsed and led to the panic of everybody running to Kabul International Airport. The next person after Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is the Secretary of Defense. He is the senior leader of the Department of Defense, and he failed to ensure that the planning done by the Joint Staff and the Central Command was done properly, and the most recent threat assessments and the intel assessments were incorporated into the plan. And he allowed the plan to be executed out of Kabul International Airport rather than Bagram. So he holds some responsibility for that. And obviously the next person after him would be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley. His obligation was to give the president unvarnished military advice. Now, we don't know what kind of advice he gave him, but we certainly do know that the options that were given to the president, one of them was to go through Kabul International Airport. And the president just happened to choose that option. Now, I've co-authored the Marine Corps planning process doctrinal manual, and I've also taught planning for many years. And I'll tell you what, we used to always teach, never present a bad course of action, because the danger in that is the commander may pick that bad course of action and you're stuck with it. And that's exactly what happened. And Milley knows this because the same thing is taught in the Army, and certainly Mackenzie knows this because the same thing's taught in the Marine Corps. But they ignored it, and that's culpability in my opinion. Then there's the next person is Frank Mackenzie, CENTCOM commander. This is where the buck stops. Mackenzie was a combatant commander. He's responsible for the mission, and force protection was his direct responsibility. He knew the risks. He also had the updated intelligence, and yet he left Marine soldiers and the Navy corpsmen, shoulder to shoulder in a kill zone, close in with the civilian population, with complete disregard of force protection. And that's the great leadership failure that happened at Abbey that our senior leaders are responsible for, and they abrogated and abandoned their responsibilities. Now, let's talk about the investigation. So we were told, hey, there's an investigation done of Abbey, and as you go back to the previous episodes that we've done with Colonel C.J. Douglas on the Afghanistan playlist, and I'll put the thumbnail up here, and you can go look at it. We talked about that investigation that happened. It was an investigation narrow in scope, only pertaining to the incidents that happened at Abbey. There was no broader investigation into the decisions by the president, decisions by the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, the Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the Commander of CENTCOM. So this is how they Teflon themselves and basically push the attention of the public away from it. And that investigation came back, and people at Abbey didn't do anything wrong. And they didn't. They were put in a shitty situation. I just happened to talk to somebody that was there on Abbey, and I felt for him. And the reason I felt for him was because as a company commander, he's got no choice. He's got to execute his orders. And he's not at the operational and strategic level, but all they can do is do their best. But they were put in a shitty situation with a shitty mission, and their senior leadership didn't give a shit about their force protection. And, so the investigation finds no culpability, no responsibility down at the company and battalion level. And everybody says, hey, there's no wrongdoing at Abbey. Bullshit. We need to look at it from the top down and find the people responsible and hold them accountable. It's really that simple. And it's been 4 years. And let me put this in perspective for you. In World War II, we mobilized in 4 years. We crossed the Atlantic and the Pacific, and we defeated both Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan in 4 years. Yet we can't do a freaking investigation. I mean, this is just political theater that we're doing, and there's not going to be any accountability. Congress has held hearings. Department of Defense has done internal reviews. The State Department issued their own sanitized report, and each document just basically, diffuses and blurs the responsibility and confuses everybody because they don't want to nail the truth. And the reason they don't is because there's going to be no punishment. This is just political theater, right? And it's happened before, and I'll tell you why. And this is how the system works. Just take a look at JFK files. They've been promised to us for years. You don't know what happened in the Kennedy assassination. Look at the Epstein files. President Trump ran on that. Hey, as soon as he gets in office, he's going to release them. Well, where are they? So this is all political theater, and these endless delays are designed so the public forgets, or the public just gets tired of asking for it. Well, this one, we're not going to forget. We want to know what the hell happened exactly in Afghanistan and Abbey, and who was responsible for it, and we want those people to be held responsible. I mean, this is simple shit. It's not that hard. There's 13 flag-draped coffins that came home. There's families left with folded flags, and that's what we do, and we walk away and forget about it. And I guarantee you this much, I highly doubt that Mackenzie, Milley, or Austin are going to reach out to the Gold Star families today. I'll put money on it because they just simply don't care. That's the fundamental problem. Or they're so ridden with guilt that they don't want to face the families. That's another problem. We've also got the survivors carrying these wounds, mental injuries, physical injuries, people like Sergeant Vargas Andrews that lost an arm and a leg. they're all out there. Who the hell's going to acknowledge them today? Nobody. I guarantee you, Millie, Austin, or Mackenzie ain't going to make a single phone call or write a single letter, or because they simply don't give a shit. They're too busy working for the military-industrial complex, writing their books, making millions, while our sons and daughters are the ones that pay the price in blood. It's horse shit, and we need to remember this. And I'll tell you what, I'm a little amped up right now because we owe it to our sons and daughters. This is the leader's primary responsibility, is to protect his force and bring his troops home. That's why we go to war. We don't go to war to die for our country. And just like Patton said, we want the other son of a bitch to die for his country. We want to bring our boys and girls home. That's what a good leader does. But, and unfortunately, what did America gain out of all this shit that we went in Kabul and got, for 20 years? I went there, my son went there, and we got nothing. We left there with our tail between our legs. The Taliban, I mean, this is unbelievable. We fought these people for 20 freaking years, and we turned around and we give the country right back to them after investing trillions of dollars into it. We abandoned our allies, and it was a massive blow to American credibility. Which still people just freaking laugh at us, and not a single person has been held accountable. Number one responsibility of a leader is to ensure that we bring our Marines and soldiers and sailors and airmen back home alive. That's our number one responsibility. And that's why I really love that quote by General Patton, that the object of war is not to die for your country. It is to make the other poor son of a bitch die for his country. That's what we do. We don't send our sons and daughters to go die in Iraq and Afghanistan and Syria and Yemen and all these other countries. Not the purpose of war. And for some reason, people in Washington, D.C. and all these combatant commands, they're starting to thrive on the fact. And I'll tell you this much. I know an officer, and I won't name him here. He insinuated that casualties are good because it's going to show how tough the unit fought. And I'm just sitting there, looking at this guy, and I wanted to literally pull out my 9mm and just go, you got to be shitting me. You're talking about our sons and daughters, that you think it's okay for us to get more casualties, so it's going to show the world how tough we fought. What the F kind of thinking is that? But this is how these people think. It's all about them and for their own glory, rather than doing what they're responsible for. So this is a really important day, and we really need to reflect on ourselves and on our leadership and how we hold people accountable. In a nutshell, today is not a good day for me. It's not a good day for America. It's not a good day for our Gold Star families. And it's not a good day for our wounded warriors that suffered because of failure in our leadership to protect and safeguard them. And quite frankly, I'm tired of this hearing we've got an ongoing investigation and all this horse shit. It shouldn't take you more than 3 months to come up and figure out who the hell is responsible. I just summarized this in the whole thing in a few minutes. Get out there, look at the facts, look at the planning documents, look at the emails, look at the conversations, and figure out who the hell is responsible. And by God, hold them responsible. That's all I got. Stay rugged, stay united. Con out.